Welcome back to today's podcast. And I am here live with raw conversation and uncensored. I'm happy to introduce Christina Ruggiero. She's a personal friend of mine. And thank you so much, Christina, for joining us today in my studio. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it too for being invited, Miss Kim.
Thank you.
And all you viewers.
And so, Christina, I would like you to have a nice, relaxing conversation with me today in today's world in 2021 with what is really going on in today's world. So we can talk about anything that you need to talk about on air. It is going to be just relaxed and casual. And as I've told many people in the world, it's our constitutional right to speak in America. And although we're recording this in America, this can go out to the world. And I want you to feel very, very comfortable with the messages that we are sending on air. Is that okay with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Christina, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I am the oldest of 11 children, 7 boys and 4 girls. I was born in Schenectady, New York, Ellis Hospital, all of us. My mother and father were actually very adventurous people. They weren't educated, but they had kind heart. They taught us many different things, how to be true to ourselves, not to listen to a lot of people. And we're all alive, and I'm very proud of them.
Awesome. And you have children, correct?
I have one son. I was very fortunate. They told me I was never going to have a child, and he popped up.
And can you tell me a little bit about what you've learned along the way in your career and in your personal life?
I've had many jobs. I was taught, my generation is totally different. As you know, I am 74, and my generation is truly very different. I see the generation gap, and I see that when I speak to my son, which we're really getting better at it now, he'll say to me, but I just said that. We speak differently. We'll say the same thing, but what we are saying is said differently. I know there's many mothers and fathers out there that may be having this problem. So I'm going to let you know, just take your time when you talk to your children and try to comprehend, because we are in 2 different generations. Number 2, I have so many jobs. I mean, I have done everything. I have worked at the New York State racetrack in Saratoga for 35 years. I was a trainer and a groom for my dad with his racehorses. By the way, my dad was a correction officer for 23 years. And when he retired, they retired him early. He bought some racehorses, and the whole family went in on helping him. My brothers became drivers. My one brother, Peter, who owns the Paint and Pony Dude Ranch, has become a farrier. He has a riding stable there. My other brothers became teachers. Some became truck drivers. I'm a truck driver now because I can't get a normal job as a 74-year-old.
You talked about horses in Saratoga. Did you ride as a kid?
I started riding at 2 years old. So, and then I used to take the horses out at Bailey's riding stable, Walker's riding stable. I was exactly 7 years old, and they'd let me take these big horses out. It was different then. We were older for our age. We weren't mature when it comes to personal things like sex and like that kind of life, but we were very mature on how to cook, how to clean, and knowing that we were taught we had to get out there and work to get anything.
Did you ride Western style?
I rode Western. I rode in Paint and Pony, barrel racing. I was 16 at the time. They allowed us to do that without insurance. Now you can't do any of that.
I remember as a kid riding and taking lessons, and that's how I learned to braid hair was on horses. And we competed in shows. Did you do anything like that?
No, I didn't do shows, but I was in the rodeo barrel racing, and I did do I groomed a lot of my dad's race horses. I would go out on the racetrack and check them for the race. I would harness them. I would put the sulky on. And it was just a great part of my life.
Wonderful. And what would you say in today's world, being on that topic, would you say there's a cultural difference or a morale difference?
I think the morale of people is getting to be devastating now. I don't think that we have a high reality of morale anymore. I think people are getting afraid to live. They're afraid of their employers because they have the power to take your job away. They're afraid to speak their mind. They're afraid to defend people. I have seen people get beat up in the street and nobody would go defend them. I would, and I have, because they're afraid. Our whole world right now is in a very devastating situation. The United States of America is a great country. The United States of America, the people that are living here and that are citizens, deserve more than what we're getting.
And I've heard many people in the news talk about the 28th Amendment and the Constitution. And I'm to the point where I feel it's a 57th Amendment and we have a whole new set of rules. And I would like to remind our audience that we live in America and we still have an opportunity for the Constitution. And in your experiences, can you tell me a little bit? I understand that you've worked with legislators in the Senate building. Can you tell me a little bit about those experiences and how the Constitution was maybe upheld a little bit differently then when you worked there, and what is happening today with fear?
Miss Kim and American people in this country, the Constitution was put there for a reason. Maybe it's not 100% correct. Maybe people all over the world are trying to change it, not just the American people. We need to keep our Constitution. It is a way to uphold our American people. The Constitution belongs in this country, excuse me. The Constitution belongs in this country. I am sick of listening of what they're doing to it. No, they're going against our Constitution. My opinion is anybody that goes against that Constitution is not an American. They don't belong in this country. I am sick and tired, and I'm saying these unprofessional words, that the Constitution is going to be torn apart. It better not.
Thank you. And can you tell me a little bit about working in the Senate building in your day-to-day tasks and how you were hired?
Yes, I was like an administrative assistant to Marge Kaufman. She was a wonderful person to work for, and I was really thrilled to get that position. In fact, I was working at the Alfred E. Smith building as a typist, and the Marge over there was torturing me. I was an excellent typist. I did 98 words per minute. I can't do that anymore. And I was being tortured. So I went back to my job the next day after the interview, and all the girls said, "Did you get the job? Did you get the job?" Because in those days we had lines of typists. It was like 50, 60 women in a room. Well, Marge got a phone call from the New York State Senate. She said, "Miss Ruggiero, you have a telephone call. I warned you not to take personal calls." I said, "Oh my God, this is not a personal call. This is for the new job." She says, "And it's because it's from a senator's office. I have to give you the call." So I walked up and Marge was on the phone and she says, "Christina, how would you like to start Monday?" This was on a Friday before Christmas. And I said, what? And all the girls got up off their seats and they were cheering me on. And I said, yes, I'll take the job. I'll be there Monday morning. Marge looked at me after I hung up the phone and she said, you're not getting your paycheck. You did not follow the rules of getting phone calls here. I had to go without my paycheck for Christmas.
What?
Yes, and I had a family. I was helping my mother and father, supporting them. I was buying Christmas clothes for them. We didn't spend a lot of money in those days. And she kept my paycheck. She's gone now, and I forgive her. But this is how people with seniority, people with power, people with control can do to a person's life.
Wow.
And I'm sure, Miss Kim, you've been there like the rest of us.
What else did you do as a typist in the Senate building? Did you meet different?
Oh, I met many
individuals?
people. In fact, I was very fortunate to meet Jane Fonda when they were filming that movie. What the heck was, I don't even remember what the movie is. I have it, but it was an exceptional movie. We made coffee for them.
Okay.
The whole building is marble. I met, in fact, I enjoyed that job. The men truly respected me. At one time, we are all young and beautiful, and I was in my 20s and I was young and beautiful. And I can honestly say I was really respected as a woman with some intellect. I didn't have a college education, but women out there and men, a college education is not going to make you someone. You're going to make you someone. And Miss Kim, you are someone.
Thank you. And I understand, in being a woman in today's world, it still may be a little bit unfair with, for example, wage. Man may make more money statistically, it is a fact, than a woman in the same job. And the culture was a little bit different back then. Did you ever feel in the Senate building ashamed of your gender or your rank?
No, never. In fact, that was the first time I got respect as a woman with some intellect without an education. I was really surprised. I didn't think that I would be acceptable, but I really got treated well. It's in any business you're in, there's always authority and power to control you as a woman. And the sad thing for women is that we're very beautiful sometimes, and sex is involved. And when employers feel that they can take advantage of you by using that, it's sad.
Understood. Can you tell me a little bit about your day-to-day, your interactions with politicians, and what time or administration you worked in?
Well, at one time, Senator Tedesco, who we see in the supermarket, he's a wonderful family man. He's my senator for Northville, New York. I have to say he's one of the people that actually managed to stay the same. He has not changed with his values. He's a very nice man. We meet him in the market once in a while, and he will take the time to stop and talk to you. He's shopping for his wife. And I actually think that's cute. So there you go again. That's a powerful person, but he's still a family man, and he's still taking care of the important things in life. I found, working for the Senate, there were good and there was bad. I worked for Senator Gold, who was a great minority leader, deputy minority leader to work for. I worked for Marge Kaufman. I was very fortunate that I was treated with great respect. Mario Cuomo was the governor, and I met him before he was governor. He used to come into the office and talk to all of us. I was very fortunate, which was nice, to see Matilda. I actually had to meet her down at the VFW in Schenectady on Erie Boulevard. So I got to do a lot of interesting things, and I got to meet a lot of interesting people. I met foreign people. I found that if you respected yourself as a woman in this atmosphere, you were respected.
Interesting that you would say that in a time that this generation would look back and study and think about laws that had to be implemented, like Roe versus Wade, and the segregation laws that were implemented in that building and in Washington, and how it would be a clarity and a mindset that you, as a woman, a white Caucasian woman, working as a typist, would be highly regarded and highly respected. That's intriguing to me. Can you tell me, at the time, as a typist, did you have DOS computers, or did you have the
No.
typewriters with the tape and the ink that you had to refill?
Yes, we had Selectric typewriters, and I was fast. And believe me, with the computer now and what's going on now, I truly appreciate that. Because our editing, we did a lot of editing because we had to type up his press releases, his news releases, and we couldn't make mistakes. That's another thing. We didn't make mistakes. We actually had 3 or 4 people go over his press releases because we wanted him to look proper.
Okay. And as you know, we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. There's
Absolutely.
humanism. And would you say your culture was in the Senate building working as a team, or were you working independently at that time?
No, I would say I was fortunate. Again, I was in an office that worked together. We had a lot of respect for each other. We had maybe 1 or 2 people that weren't respectful, but you know what happens when you get caught not being respectful. So I would say that I was very fortunate, very, very fortunate.
What would you say in the building at the time that you learned in New York State Assembly from assembly members or legislators and or your coworkers that you would take away and apply to real life?
Well, when you work for the New York State Senate, it's kind of a separated entity. Not that we looked down at the assembly people, but we really weren't close. It was 2 separate entities. The assembly was that way and the Senate was that way. If we did gather at a party or a group meeting, we were very cordial to each other. People were different then. People really cared. It seems we lost this somewhere along the road. We are getting selfish. I better correct myself. Not the American people are getting selfish. Our people that are in the government are becoming extremely selfish. They are not taking care of the American people.
And how so? And that leads me to my next question. With what you have learned in your experience in your career as raising horses and truck driver, working at the track, and with legislators in your career and obtaining your CDL, what have you learned from politicians and that you would apply to real life today?
When I went for that job for the New York State Senate, and that young lady said to me, "You don't have a college education. What are you doing here?" And I looked at her and I said, "But I do have an education. I trained myself. I had many jobs. I've learned many things, and I have a right to be here just like you. I can't afford to go to college, or I would." So that taught me to never say never. That taught me no matter who tries to put me down and say I can't, I will. That taught me the stronger you make yourself, men and women, the more you'll gain, and you will like yourself in this lifetime. I don't let anything or anybody get in my way.
If you could go anywhere in the world or in this country, where would you go? And how would you lead?
Well, I've been all over the country driving for Spirit Miller, which I had a little problem with, but the company is a great company. It's a great trucking company. I love delivering 25,000-pound trucks at my age. I'm 74. There are older women, there are older men on the road, but I find that I see younger women are finally waking up to truck driving. I would, since I've been all over the country, state to state, from the south to the north to the west, I would come home and I would actually, where I live in Northville, New York, I would never leave. I would like to leave for maybe 2-3 months out of the year, but that's my home. It's a great place to live. It's not dirty. People mind their own business. It's wide open spaces. The little town is on a little island. It's great. The schools are wonderful. You can talk to your next door neighbor. Nobody's afraid to talk. I find that after seeing how other states are and they don't have fresh water, they have a high gathering of trash and no place to put it. People are not really together as human beings. And then I finally said, I love New York. I mean, that logo's been around forever. I love New York.
Yes, it has. And when we think about New York, we think about, give me 1 or 2 buzzwords.
We think about strength. I met Rockefeller. I was very fortunate to meet Rockefeller. We think about the clean water here, the canals. I'm worried that people will ruin that eventually. New York has been pretty darn good at keeping the state a nice state. It has its flaws, but nobody's perfect. And the people that run the state, they can't be perfect either.
We're human, and we can talk about humanism all day. And if you were a leader in any one of your jobs, what would you tell your employees about strengths and weaknesses to lead?
Okay, first of all, my mother and father taught us one thing that was very important. No matter from cleaning toilets to standing in front of a podium and being just a speaker, you must do that job like it's your own business. You cannot say, oh, well, I'll do this for an hour. I'll leave that till tomorrow. You have to do 100% on any job you ever done in your lifetime. I do that. I have trained myself to complete a job. I have clean toilets and I'm not ashamed of it. I needed a job. I was a single parent. When I couldn't get a regular job, I had to do something to earn money. There is no reason why the jobs are scarce in New York right now. They keep telling you there's jobs. I'm one to tell you, I'm all over the internet every day. I go down to the labor department in Amsterdam. I talk to people. There's not a lot of jobs. People need to be making $25 an hour today. I was paying my girls $10 an hour 35 years ago.
Wow.
I had a restaurant. They had children to feed. I would let them bring their children into the dining room, close it up, and have their children there while they were working. And I'd let their mothers come, well, they were grandmothers, and take care of the children so they didn't have to pay for daycare. I was good to my people, and I would tell you something. We're missing that in today's society. We need more of that. People can't go to work. Look at the gas. It's almost $4.50. What is it? $3.29 a gallon?
How do you like paying $5 almost a gallon for gas?
I came 70 miles to get to you, Miss Kimmy. And think about how many gallons of gas that was. And I have to go back. You cannot live on $15 an hour. I'm ashamed that the government is allowing all these billion-dollar corporations get away with that. $25 an hour they need. But then again, you have a bad situation. You start making $25 an hour, then your taxes go up. The payroll taxes are ridiculous.
And we could live, when you were paying your girls $10 an hour, we could live on $400 a week. And is it fair to say buy food and pay rent back then at that
Yes,
time?
I have to say it was a much better time. Okay, here's my age again. I was 16 years old, 34 cents a gallon of gas. I bought my first car for $200. I thought that was a fortune. I drove to Maine with it with a bunch of girls. It was fun. We got to live. Bread was 17 cents a loaf. A quart of milk was 25 cents a loaf when I was 16.
That's amazing.
I know. Now I know. Now I look at the prices and I say, how could these poor parents, men and women that are single parents, how could they feed their children? How could they get gas to go to work? You can't. Come on, wake up, government.
I've been in the film business a long time, and a lot of people say in our industry, well, how do you make your money, Kimberly? I heard that most of the money in the movies is made on popcorn and soda and not the actual movie. And what we forget about in all this glamour and power and paint is that lights cost money. Actors and employees and business administrators cost money. It costs money to put for a video camera. It costs money to write to the federal government and the state government for income tax. It costs money before we even show that movie on a big screen. And we have things called paying to the IRS and Uncle Sam a portion of that money. And in my world, yes, we have to sell merchandise and clothes and wear our faces on dolls because we have to make additional money. And so these are really, really good points. And when you were working and paying your girls in a restaurant $10 an hour, it's kind of the same thing. You had to pay for silverware and glasses and tablecloths before you even got started in your restaurant, correct?
Correct, but
Yes.
I was a people person. I cared about people. I cared about families. I worried more about them than myself. That's the way we were brought up and taught. It's a good way. The point is I think the minimum wage was $3.50 an hour at that time. I said, I can't pay my girls that. They'll starve to death. I only had 2 women working for me, but they had children. And I'll tell you, Miss Kim, this is very interesting. The movie industry, I laugh why they don't have common sense. If they would stop charging this humongous admission fee, they'd make more money because more people would be able to go. Here's the common sense. More people go, you get more money. Less people go for a high amount, you get less money.
And now we're talking about budgeting and all of that kind of thing.
Correct.
Before we take a break, and we have lots more coming up in our show today.
I hope so.
COVID and Andrew Cuomo later and Matilda. I'd like to know anything else that you would like to tell me before we break away for to commercial. Anything that you would like me to know about your days working in the government?
I appreciated the Senate. I said this before, but you've got to understand, I don't know what's really going on inside the walls. I knew that I had a great time there. Everybody was very cordial, friendly. People helped people. People worked together then. I mean, I wouldn't think of going to another office and helping someone. We had a Democrat come to the Republican office. I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. I worked on both sides of the party. We can talk about that sometime. But I feel that
Let's talk about that now.
Okay, that's fine. This is fun.
Today.
We will talk about it today.
I was a travel agent during 911. We don't know if we're going to have it tomorrow. So let's talk about your views. And we don't have to get political or be afraid.
No, I'm not afraid.
We can talk about that right now, about Republican versus Democrats. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not gonna say I like one, I was on both sides of the party. I'm not gonna say I like one better than the other, which I do, but that's my personal business. I choose to vote for whom I want. I don't care what party they're in. It depends what they're gonna do for the state, depends what they're gonna do for the American people. The American people are suffering right now. Number one.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say Pelosi?
You can say whatever you want on air.
Okay.
I've talked to Nancy Pelosi and her staff and told her my thoughts behind closed doors. But this is about you right now, so let's talk about it.
I'm totally disappointed in Mrs. Pelosi. As a woman, I'm actually ashamed of her. She reminds me of Hitler, not doing abusive physically, but she's abusing the American people. Totally abusing the American people mentally. Another thing, Mr. Biden, I think he's got a problem, and I think that they're using him. I think he's making a lot of mistakes. I think if he doesn't hurry up and grasp his life, he's losing the people in this country. I believe that when the November elections come, I believe that that'll tell the truth. I'm not, if you notice, I am not saying Democrat or Republican.
Understood.
Okay.
And as you know, I know the Biden family, and we are not going to be on one side of the fence or the other. And we're saying that's for the best of
the American
people. Agreed?
Agreed.
And so constructive criticism is due, because constructive criticism, in my opinion, would you agree, is going to empower and embetter the people in power at this time.
Miss Kim, American people and the government that's controlling the United States, wake up. We don't care what you guys are doing personally. We care about what you're going to do for this country. You're flubbing it up terribly.
And Miss Christina, my friend, and you have worked for so long with the same circles of people that I've known. I watched Chris Cuomo, and he knows this, play basketball at my school, and Mario and Matilda cheering on the family in the Cuomo administration. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but let's stay on topic.
Yes.
What would you, if there were 5 things or less on your hand, want to see implemented in Washington right now?
The only thing that there's, look, the border crisis is really a crisis. They have to stop this. I have done things for people all my life. I had less than some people. I have taken care of many people. We were brought up to do this. But this border crisis is ridiculous. Mr. Biden has to fix this. He cannot let those people stay there, and he cannot allow them to come in, because my grandparents came from Italy and they were deported the very first time. They could not stay here because they couldn't speak English and they had to go back. So they deported them. They came back over to America. They learned English. They got jobs. They bought a house. They started a business, and they became citizens. What is going on in this world today? Do you think other countries are going to let the American people come over there and live and stand at their border and take care of them? This is getting a bit out of control. Okay.
Number 2, I was doing that to Biden. Cut the border quickly. It is what I heard. Secondly, what else?
Secondly, if we give all our jobs to all the incoming people that are not citizens, what's happening to us? What are we going to do? What are you doing to the American people? You're crucifying them. You're making them slaves.
That brings up a really good point, and we could go on topic for this, and we should talk about this right now, about our perceptions and the executive decision to most recently bring 100 refugees to Albany and give them good homes, as much as we can nurture and love the people all around the world and help people together, what priority do you think Americans should have over your number two, giving jobs to Americans in refugees? How should we rank this?
You have to understand something. I had grandparents that were deported. They came over the right way and got their citizenship. That's what these refugees should be doing. They should be getting their citizenship the correct way. But the American people are being cheated. If the American people have to go on social services and food stamps, whose fault is that? You think it's their fault? If you're giving the jobs away to people that are not citizens, how can the American people support themselves? God bless America. I want to help anybody, but this is a very absurd thing that we're doing to the American people. I'm not doing it. The government's doing it. What are we going to do? What can the American people do? They're getting poorer. We're bringing people, think about this. This is common sense. We're bringing people into this country, taking the American people's jobs, and then there's no jobs for the American people. Are we becoming that stupid in the government? And my mother told me never to use that word stupid.
Lord have mercy. And with that being said, what's your number three for constructive criticism, for improvement for our government?
I think they should concentrate on actually finishing this border crisis and getting rid of it. Those people shouldn't be there. Number one, they're coming from all different companies, Miss Kim. Countries, companies. They have nice clothing. I was watching it, and I'm a little confused about the whole thing. I even actually got a magnifying glass. Some of them are even wearing new sneakers. What I don't understand, if these people are in that poverty, where'd they get all of this? How'd they get over with no money and no food? Where did they get their tents? I'm really confused about all this.
And that's the other thing too, as we were addressing human trafficking, we're really worried about the children that are being left at the border into the United States without any parents. They're just being carted into this country in America. So would you agree, number three, we have to address the foster children that come into this country?
Half of those children, I don't believe are coming in with real parents. I believe half of those children were either kidnapped or stolen. I don't believe those parents are their parents. Look, I was raised very poor. We didn't have very much. Well, no, I'm not going to say poor. I'm going to say I was rich with love. We had food. We had a nice place to sleep. We didn't have money, but we all went out and earned it. But half of these children at the border, I don't believe they're the true parents.
Who's feeding these kids?
I don't understand that either. Where are they getting the food? Where are they getting the money to buy the food? Like I said before, where are the tents coming from? Where are the new sneakers coming from? I actually took a magnifying glass to see what kind of shoes, because I felt bad. And I said, those are new sneakers. They're new Reeboks. Where did they get them? I mean, I really looked into this and said, how can they possibly travel all that way? And they're at our border and nobody's sending them back or doing anything about it. What's going to happen to the American people if we let 15,000 more people in? What about the American people? This is the big question. What about the American people's rights?
Number four, civilian rights and humanism.
Is that what it's called? I don't know. Is that what it's called now? What's your interpretation of humanism?
Humanism to me, and you bring up a good point, and it's a good question. would be honoring the honor system, which is we have a different perspective in the government and we have a different perspective that Freud would tell us, and somehow they're colliding. Government versus Freud is colliding with perspectives. So we're taking away our Maslow hierarchy of needs, our food, clothing, shelter, and need for sex, to for whatever reason, whether it be quality control, communism and socialism.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's the whole thing in this country. Our government that's ruling this country is trying to control the American people. That's not what life is all about. You don't want to control them and you don't want to take their freedoms away, which you are definitely doing.
Anything else we could add to this laundry list? I have border crisis, jobs for Americans.
They've got to start respecting us. I've worked 55 years. I am not a lazy person, and there's a lot of me out there. The older people want to go back to work to take care of what their children can't do. Their children can't get jobs. If you let in 15,000 more people, what about the American children? My brother went to China. You know what he said to me? That's another thing we have to discuss. He said, Christina, the Walmart stores over there look like castles. I said, what are you talking about? He said, there's 400 Walmart stores over there. I went to some of them. I can't do 400. He said, but our Walmart stores in this country are dumpster stores. And I agree with him. Walmart should be taking care of the American people's stores. I want to shop in a nice store. Just because the clothing is cheap, that doesn't mean I can't have a luxury looking store. Wake up, Walmart.
Thank you, Christina. And we're going to go to break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about COVID. And much later, we'll get raw and uncensored with the Coco Family Conversation.